Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Sunshine Education Coalition. I am April Cobb, one of the co founders, and to my right or left,
I am Denise Thomas Papillon, and I am also a co-chair of the Sunshine Education Coalition. And it is our mission, and it is our um, pride and a joy to introduce to you another month of 28 days. We are focusing right now on DEI, so we want to jump right into that topic with you. But first of all, we also wanted to give a shout out not only to our producer Bianca Gooseby, but we also want to also give a shout out and a lift up to our fabulous and amazing secretary, Dr. Angela Schroeder, who has been having some difficulties lately, but we're keeping her lifted. So, good evening, April. How are you this evening?
if we want to be honest, I am exhausted today. Today was a very fast-paced day from the time I stepped on campus until right about 2:30. There was not a moment to even get more than 2 bottles of water in. So it was fast-paced, but I will say this, I survived. I survived. How about you?
I think it went well. We had an incident early in the morning, and I'm just saying to myself, I said, y'all don't pay bills, so how can you be this angry at this hour of the morning? So it just it just kept on going from there. And other than that, I think the day was okay. It's just exhausting. Been noticing, you know. I have to invest in some new medicines, new prescriptions, new vitamins, because I do understand that yeah, it is beginning to be taxing and wearisome, and as you age, things happen. So um, all of that, pulling all those thoughts together, and I just understand that this is the way it is as we enter into this new year of 2025. And so I'm excited about our topic, but I'm also excited about just getting responses from people who are around. What would they like to say or chime in, and how are they feeling at this particular moment in
So we know that we are currently under a new every time I say that, it just kind of baffles me that we have arrived where we have arrived, but we are under a new presidential administration. And I have always been one to respect whomever that wins the race. It is what it is. There's no discrepancy behind that. The final say is the final say of the people, and we all just have to live within that space. But the key thing that's being missing is respectfully. That's the biggest problem that I'm having right now. And unfortunately, based on my current tax bracket, I'm limited on what I can do along with the majority of those that reside in it with me, leading into our overarching topic of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Those three words, or that phrase, or however you want to look at it, have become the most notorious three words under the current administration. And the question is why? Because if we were to break down those three words and define each of them, each of those words bring about positivity. Each one of those words collectively bring about a uplifting, and it's not directly identifiable to anything that I've ever known to be negative, but for some reason or another, that's where we are. What's your thoughts, Denise?
I see the world as a colorful place, right? And especially being from the Caribbean, I'm so accustomed to multicultural things, experiencing that through food, through music, through just people interactions with human beings. So to spend a lifetime growing up in that particular environment, and then to realize now at this age, it's like, how is it this that it's such a negative thing? And first of all, everybody know that food tastes better with seasoning. I mean, that's just the bottom line, right? And so it just boggles the mind, befuddles the mind, and boggles the mind when you are saying that this is a negative thing. And we're gonna break that down in a second. We're gonna talk about some positives first of all of that. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna go with our talking points, if you don't mind, right? When we start talking about DEI, we said that one of the things that we got was that it ensures that all students have equitable access to opportunities. That's first of all, resources and support. And let's just stop, pause right there on those three things, right? Opportunity. Everyone has an opportunity, a fair chance. Not some people, everyone. That's what the equitable comes from, right? And then the resources. That means just because we don't learn the same, we get resources to help us get to a point where we're all pretty much playing in the same playing field, right? And then support. The whole bottom line about what everyone needs some sort of support. Even the person at the very top will need to have advisors or somebody you can rely on to talk to. So that's what it all is. And imagine if it comes from a variety of different people from different cultures. You learn so much. It encourages kids to also develop empathy, because now you don't just see a person over here as, oh, this person is a horrible person. Hey, I've learned a little bit about that person's culture. I learned what makes them tick. I learned what drives them, what's their internal drive, what's their family origin, right? And then of course it improves two things, big things: academic outcome and also social emotional skills. That's the biggest thing right there, because you can clearly see the difference between narcissism and someone who's had the ability to interact with people from different cultures. Hey, that's why they do that. That's why they like that. That's why they like that particular season on their food. And that's why they fold their bread over like this and put. Isn't that interesting? Because I've learned that, because that's I've learned from another culture. So it's sometimes, like I say, it's mind-boggling to know that people look at other cultures and other people and just like, I just don't like it. Why don't you just try? Why don't you just be nice one day? Just learn to be nice.
And I totally agree with everything that you said. But the one that resonates with me the most is the opportunities piece of it. Because we all know that, unfortunately, in most cases, in all cases, let me correct that statement. Children do not decide how they arrive on this earth. They don't decide. They don't get to pick the family. They don't get to pick the finances. They don't get to pick their circumstances. Like, none of those are choices, because I do believe everyone, if given opportunity to have a menu, a smorgasbord of a menu in front of them before birth, I think we all would choose success, wealth, health, opportunities, exposure to a variety of things. Some of those things we would choose. So when we are looking at things from a child's position, just note the opportunities are not always there. And unfortunately, that's based upon how they arrived. Meaning, what did they, when they were born, what did they born, what were they born into? Poverty or wealth, or somewhere in the middle? In their communities, what are they exposed to? Poverty, wealth, or somewhere in the middle? Their lifestyle, what are they exposed to? And I could go on and on and on with a variety of examples. But the bottom line is the opportunities just aren't the same. So when we go into DEI out of all of it and just basically say, well, unfortunately, if you need any additional support in the classroom, some students, whether that be additional therapy, whether that be additional behavior therapy, emotional therapy, because in most cases, when it's a physical therapy that can be seen, it's not a problem. It's the other category. And unfortunately, I've had an opportunity taken from me because of that simple situation for my grandson. It's been taken. Now it's the obstacle for me to figure out how to restore that before it's official on February the 28th. So the opportunities are necessary. The equal opportunities are necessary. With equity in it are necessary, because he was born, unfortunately, the wealth does not exist. I'm in the middle. And I could not afford that type of therapy if I even desired on the current financial in my current financial bracket that I'm in and the type of job that I am currently going to ride out what we call now career. So just my little
And I
in there.
Yeah, and I totally I get that, empathize with that, because just you're just one person speaking of one situation. You're talking about how many other thousands and thousands of people that have the same thing that are not a visible on the outside type of situation where you need to have some kind of services, right? People need to understand a lot of times when kids come to school, they're already coming with a wealth of baggage that they're bringing in with them. So you're seeing a person sitting in front of you, and you're thinking, why are they sleeping in class? They didn't get any sleep last night, but you don't know what their home situation was like. You don't know what tools they need, especially going all the way down to pre-K and kindergarten. These are tools that they need now to help them cope as they go get older. So we need to see that. So the fact that these services will be stripped from our children, I can't understand it. You not realize it's going to get worse because as they age, they need that constant amount of support that's there. So now this ties directly into their academics, because if they're not receiving what they need as socially, emotionally, now you're going to talk about a student achievement. Well, excuse me, how they going to do well there? That's our big concern there too, because already, we see in our particular schools how we some of the kids already are behind 1, 2, 3 levels. Moving forward now, when you remove these things, and especially remove the teachers that look like them, the teachers that have the same kind of cultural experiences that they have, how are you allowing them to have success? Because studies have shown that children who receive teachers who are of all different backgrounds, that they actually do better in school, because they're more accepting and more understanding and more empathetic to that particular situation. Oh, I didn't know you were going to say something, April.
No, I was just agreeing. Absolutely. The diversity. That's what it is, the diversity that we all need. And along with that diversity goes the cultural comp along with it. They are coupled and
So now here's what I'm. Oh, I think I started talking. So now here's what I'm going to share with everybody right here. This said, research from the National Bureau of Economic Research shows that students in diverse schools perform better due to increased cross-cultural understanding and critical thinking. Okay, now let's just break that down just a little bit. If I if my only answer, say for example, we're talking about going out there and doing farming or something like that, or for example, finding out where certain foods come from. Some kids will know that this particular thing has to be grown. Other kids will be like, we get it from a grocery store. But other kids will be like, back home, my grandmother used to grow this, and I've never seen it grown on a farm. I've never seen it in a store. I've always known that my grandma grows it. So now, within one particular class, you've got three different methods of one particular item that the kids know about, and they all learn from each other. That there, you're developing your critical thinking skills, and that comes from that diversity within the classroom, as opposed to saying, okay, well, we all know one thing, but where's the growth? Where's again the critical thinking skills, right? Also talks about representation. One thing we're focusing with DEI is on teacher representation, which tells us that was a 2021 John Hopkins study found that Black students with at least one Black teacher in elementary school are 13% more likely to graduate high school and enroll in college. Wait a minute, isn't that something? With just one.
and just say that again. Not that the child had the teacher during high school or middle school. Say that again, Denise. Run that one back.
Okay, so I'm gonna read the whole thing. It's a 2021 John Hopkins study found that Black students with at least one Black teacher in what elementary school are 13% more likely to graduate high school and enroll in college. What does that say about the impact of the elementary school? What does that say? Okay.
And remember, we use John Hopkins to reference when we're doing so many other studies, and it becomes fact. It becomes research based. It becomes, we accept that. So we can't choose some of John Hopkins' research and not all of it, right? So therefore, it gives you the indicator. Black students. It identified the win during elementary age, and then it tell you the impact. 13% more likely to graduate and go on to college. Those are all considered facts, research based. Not we're making it up. Facts.
And so you need to understand something. Something clicked in the child at that point in time to say, hey, you know what? There are a variety of people in the world, and I'm able to learn from all of them. I'm more open. My mind is more open to saying, "Hey, I can learn from this teacher and that teacher and that teacher." And I've learned some experiences. Maybe that teacher just taught in a manner that just was attractive to me, that I was able to pull and continue to go on. Because remember, when kids don't listen, we are a middle schooler. I've been working with a middle school population for a long time. When you can clearly see the deficits from that elementary to that middle school. You can clearly see the deficit, and we're just like, man. And then for us also, you can actually trace it down to the actual school. If you ask if those sixth graders coming in, what school you went to? Oh, okay, I get it. What school did you go to? Oh, and when you see them coming in and they got a wealth of skills, their skill set, not only emotionally, socially, not only academically, they coming in and they out the gate like this. I'm like, okay, what school did you come from? I could tell. I could tell. So just understand the diversity does make a difference all the way down to elementary school, all the way down. Okay. So now let's talk about discipline. Now, this is something that April and I have been harping on for years. So I'm gonna let April just talk a little bit about where we started. When we started the Sunshine Education Coalition, let April just talk about why. Go ahead, April. Go ahead.
So when we started the Sunshine Education Coalition, number one, it was during COVID, and we had a lot of time on our hands to just sit back and read and research and pay attention. And some things that just was not adding up. We stumbled across some data, and it basically gave us the number of total students at the school. It broke it down by race and gender, and it told us how many the variety of races that were at the school and the genders. And then when we got to the discipline, maybe there was an error somewhere along the line in the data, because the number of Black boys, to be specific, that were being suspended or removed from the classroom were at an alarming high, in most cases 3 times the amount in comparison to their non-Black peers. And wait, how? And we said, well, maybe it's just certain schools, where the majority of the students are Black students or African American students. No. What we found is, or we stumbled upon something that we just probably we just were not paying attention to because we were teaching. We were teaching. And continue to teach. It's evident that this is a nationwide issue. Now the question becomes, if the data has proven that this is in fact true, where are the solutions that should at some point have deterred the number of disciplinary issues that have occurred or occur as it relates to Black and brown children? I've been at the Hispanic children in there as well. And then if we dig a little bit deeper, where's the responsibility from everyone that's involved as it relates to when they're interacting with the children? So that goes back to that parable. How are the children, African proverb, how are the children? And as of right now, if we were to we didn't have to take a deep dive, just a mere glimpse, what they say when the evaluators come into classrooms to let's just take a snapshot of our nation's disciplinary track when it comes to children. I promise you, it exists across the board. The Black boy is going to be your highest number. And right now, being that we're having a shift in a lot of our schools that are predominantly Hispanic, the Hispanic boy is now at the top. So that's how we arrive here with Sunshine Education Coalition. We are, constantly bring it to the forefront. Let me go back a little bit. During that time, we constantly brought this information to the forefront to those that, of power. And they basically said, we know, school board members, leaders in our community, yes, we're aware. Now what? Good question, because it still exists to this day. Not a lot has been done. And there is so much room for growth in that area, to be more intentional about what should be happening versus what is happening. And yes, we know these kids BDBANGRY, upset, mad, pissed off. We know all of that. Trust me, we are not given any type of excuse in that era, but but I do know that something has to be done. And that requires more. You have to throw money at problems, unfortunately, in order to fix it, which means that you got to throw money into the problem to bring in additional resources to support changing the trajectory for these kids constantly being removed out of the classroom for whatever reason that may be. And yes, in most cases, it is their situation. But what do we do next? Because sending them to the office doesn't help. Just to sit in a room, send them home, not helping. Where's the restorative practices in this place? Or addressing their mental health, the root cause.
I mean, you hit the nail on the head, okay? Because that's it. That's it. I mean, we definitely need money, right? But I mean, if we look, the one thing I gotta say about teachers, right? Teachers are a resourceful set of people. And admin, I need you to remember that teachers are a resourceful set of people, because you keep on saying, okay, let's do this, let's do PLCs, let's do all this practicing and all this stuff. But give us some a little space, and give us the opportunity to work it out. Because again, with the sending the child to the office does not work. Sending the child, because they come back with a lollipop or a bag of Takis, and they just like, okay, yeah, all right, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna be 10 times worse. Okay. Sometimes parents will tell us, I don't know what to do. So that means that child has now a free reign to run over the place. You gotta understand, if we don't have the people, if we know these resources being cut, we looking into the future, the immediate future with the Department of Education, all these things that we see. Let us create the solutions in house. There's a lot of things that we could create in house that'll actually help. But a child being suspended for 5, 10 days, and you send them back and put them right back in the classroom, you have not done anything for restorative practice at all.
Because where are the reentry plans? Like at some point, that used to be a thing. I can't remember like when it kind of just disappeared, because I never had a influx of disciplinary referrals written on my end. But I do recall like days the parents used to have to come in with the child when they return, or an adult. But I don't know when that kind of disappeared. But at least some type of plan has to be put in place where when the child returns, that conversation is had. Do you realize what went wrong? What can you do better? And so on and so forth.
One of the questions I asked parents too, I said, what strategies? Like, because when I get to the point where there's nothing else I can do, I've talked, I've had team meetings, I've had everything. And I asked the parent directly, what strategies do you use when this child gets like this? When they talk back, when they call you bro, when you're clearly a female, when they say all this stuff to you, well, I don't know what to do. Parents, we got to work on that. We got to work on we got to work on it. Like, so let me, speaking of which, while we here, right? Let me just say this. Let's talk about school. We love to go based upon facts, right? The U.S. Department of Education reports that Black students are suspended at nearly 4 times the rate of their white peers, highlighting the systemic biases. All right, because we have these systemic biases that start in school, we've got to work from the home base to the school before they even get to where they go. Because our big thing is the pipeline, the prison situation, school to prison pipeline. Well, before we even get there, we got to be able to fix the problems now. And we need the resources. And if we don't have the resources, we have, like, for example, in my, I don't know about your school, but in my school, there are actual spaces where we have entire empty classrooms. Why haven't we created something to where we have a mediation room, a meditation room, a room where they could just, hey, let's bring back naps. I don't know about you, but I think we should bring back the nap. Okay.
Did you say
But
whole nap? I will say this. I completely agree with you, because again, in the classroom space, some kids need that nap, that break, that reset. And until we address again the root of it all, the body, we're going to consistently just, go the cycle of, well, they left with the same behavior and they came back with it. So the bottom line is, what are we going to do? What are we jumping in to do differently so we can get a different result? Because doing the same thing over and over, insane. I know I'm not insane. I know that. But I'm a part of an insane system that requires me or limits me to be able to do something different. So you're right. Where are those quiet rooms? Those what they say, the noise canceling rooms, the white space music going, the meditation, teaching them something indifferent than what they know how to express their emotions or how to effectively communicate. Because right now, that's the biggest issue that majority of our youth are having: how to effectively communicate. They don't know how, and it and it probably have something to do with those small computers that are attached to them, as if it's a part of their bloodline nowadays. So it is what it is.
Yeah, and I agree because again, yeah, you're right. Because they actually what and here's a novel idea. Why don't you create a space where there is no phone? Okay, then when they come into the space, there's no phone. And it's just remember during the summertime, gotta get that plug to the East Tampa summer booster brain camp. But that whole time when we lay down on the mats, we had a yoga mat session with the bing bing. I mean, and you just release all the tension, all the tension. What is the actual formal name of that, April?
Sound bowl therapy.
It was called, yeah, the sound bowl therapy. I mean, just have that in a room with the kids, 20 minutes. It will literally reset their entire life.
And it does. And we experienced it, like you said, during our summer camp sessions, um, teaching the children the importance of meditation, teaching the children of the importance of resetting and regulating their emotions and how that aligns with their academic success. And understand that when you're feeling a certain type of emotion, these are strategies that can support you. And I will say we were one of the few that for something like that in our summer camp.
Yeah, I mean, it's everyone want to call it new age, but not really. I mean, have you just taken a moment to just sit down and unplug? I mean, you got to think about this. You are attached to so much social media, so much just noise constantly, just the sounds from outside, everything, and just take a moment to just sit there and just tune out and just try to enjoy the silence. Silence can be an actual weighty type of thing. It's so heavy sometimes that silence is just enough. Give yourself that space and imagine if you as an adult are going through all that. Imagine what children experience because they got to bear the burden of all of it. Plus things like bullying, things like somebody just snatched my lunch. Give yourself a break. Okay, April, go ahead.
I just was going to add to the list that you're saying with the so many variables that exist now that are hyper, that the kids hyper focus on them to a place to where it drives themselves insane. Literally, like they are so hyper focused on self image. They're so hyper focused on, um, and when I say self image, I mean it in two facets, meaning the clothing and their actual bodies themselves. Just not being capable of understanding that it's okay to be different. They don't understand that, and that we don't have a lot of our youth engaging in conversations to where they're healthy. The only way that they have been taught how to do so is, pick up like they learn from the dance. Wait, they don't love you like I love you, and all the different, like our children have become robots in that space. Like I tell you all the time, seeing them in the cafeteria, they just moving. Their brains is constantly telling them dance, move, shake. I'll be like, oh God, if you do that dance again, I'm gonna lose it. And I even found myself even at some point watching a few TikTok videos and watching the dance. It got to be something embedded in there that connects to the to say, play it again, play it again, play it again. And I was like, wait a minute, let me get off of this mess. And my doggone just singing out songs out loud that I normally would not do that. I normally would not do that.
I,
So
I no, no, no. I was gonna say, as a the first time I experienced, because I don't have a TikTok app, right? What I do is I watch it off of reels from other people, right? So the first time I actually noticed, I was like, wait a minute, is this? Why is this video so long? But it seems like it's repeating itself over and over again because it's really only 15, 20 seconds long. But you're constantly because you feel like you need to just just it sucks you in, so I was like, oh, I see why not, but also why the kids' attention span are so incredibly short. Because if they don't get it in 15 seconds or less, it means nothing. And so it really is hard for us too to try and capture their attention span for something longer than that. Like I'm right currently doing poetry. I had to find some super short poetry. Thank God the curriculum itself gave us some short poetry because I'm just like, if this thing was any longer and any more drawn out, I would have lost the entire class. Okay. So, but that's what I'm noticing too about uh, what am I looking for? What I'm noticing about the kids' ability to have to do something in a sustained manner, right? And because of that, it goes back now again to our resources. We need help. We need the resources to help these kids regulate, stay on track. And we're not specifically always talking about medication. We're not talking about putting our kids on any kind of particular thing, but more giving them the help they need to be emotionally strong, to be socially strong. I mean, our kids react so quickly to anything that may upset them, and they don't know how to process anger. They don't know how to process hurt. Sometimes they're just hungry, but it comes across as anger. It comes across as just, well, I hate everybody in the world, but it's not what it is. So that big thing about us having those resources for the kids is super important. And so you can imagine how we feel when we look at the current administration and they're constantly saying, cut, let's cut this, let's cut that, let's cut this, let's cut that. But we're not cutting from the top. The fat, we usually, it's important to cut the fat off the top. Why we doing things that hurt the people at the very bottom? Because just in case, for those who claim that they do know their word, even the Bible says that the poor will always be among us. It's how we treat them: the motherless, the fatherless, the widow, the children. How do you treat
come
them?
on.
And so we need to understand what are we what are we doing? Because morally, if nothing else in your heart and soul matter, morally you should know you have to protect the most defenseless of us all, and that's our children. So what are we doing?
And that is a great question. And then just to pivot just a moment. Like so many times you have individuals like you, myself, and others in our circle that have, you know, put forth so much of our own free time, and we still do it to this day, put forth so much of our own times and efforts to constantly pour into children and pour into their families and so on and so forth. And then become a point of the questioning your integrity behind what you do and how you do it because they don't know what you're doing. That right there has just become so I don't even know how to wrap my head around it. I almost found myself in a situation just recently where I was getting ready, where I was tempted to respond to it, and then I had to remind myself, that's God. Hey, I know what I know. I do things with integrity. I know things I do, and what the most won't do, but the most will complain about how you doing it and want to tell you when and what to do with it. But the question become is, you know that there's a problem, but you've done nothing. You've done nothing, but you have so much to say about it. You know it lacks diversity in the various programs that's here in our district. You know that. You know it has lacked the equity in a lot of our programming because a lot of times half the programs they can't get in or get to. And inclusion. When you struck out both of those, come on. So you know what? Prayed on that thing and reminded myself it's the survival rate for me over here is going to be just that regardless because God has the final say and I ain't never been without at any point in my adult life. I'm not. So I'm going to just leave that there. and
Yeah.
say, in the end,
Mhm.
touch thou not. They say, touch not thou anointing.
Correct.
You
No,
found
you
stuff
know,
falling apart in your own lives. Touch not.
thank you. I'm gonna throw the old West Indian thing that my mother would say. You know, empty barrel, and make the most noise. When you-
Like, it's just madness.
you-
Like, it's madness.
but
Like, yeah, like, ask the question, but don't just create noise. Ask. There's never been any
Mhm.
secrets. Ask. Go back and do the research. Ask. Just because it's not packaged pretty, like the major organizations are capable of doing, because they have a staff of hundreds, just ask.
Let me help you with, with another one too. Thing just for those who out there listening, it's called grassroots. Okay, when you say something is grassroots, that means we pulling from the very ground, and this is the root of the organization, right? And this is where we are now. If you have something that you want to say, or something that you want to add, hey, guess what? You can contribute to help it look package it a little bit pretty. But honestly, let me tell you something. We don't care about the packaging. We care about the kids. So so what are you
That's
doing
it
for
right
the
there. Say it
kids?
again. Care about
We
what
don't care
we
about it.
know, the lackings. We know the
Yes.
deficits. We know all of those things. And we also know that the majority don't want to work with them. And how do we know for facts? Because they're not. But don't
Look,
question.
if they're not a legacy kid, or if they're not a kid that they have this whole entire family went to this particular college or university, and this one went to this, and then okay, I get all that. This might be the very first generation child that is now going to graduate from high school. We ain't even gonna talk about college. This might be the first child that ever graduated from high school.
Right.
But
Right.
but
And that's
someone
just
someone
important as the college graduate, the
correct,
equity.
or the sixth generation college graduate, that someone has to care enough. Someone has to care enough to say this particular child might be the one that make it. Why? Where's the support for that particular child? While you watch East Tampa be bought up by corporations, and you're comfortable with it because we're moving on to Riverview and Gibsonton and every place else that don't let me have to go there, because I just jump all through that. But while you look at the East Tampa and you look at these areas being 50% of Hillsborough County purchased by corporations, what are we? Where? Think about where those children going. Where are the children even stand when it come to
Exactly.
school?
And we're not going to talk
Because
about
the parents aren't. Whew. Go ahead. Go ahead.
it's just it always make me reflect back to all of our middle schools in the inner city, magnet schools, which means that over 75% of our children are being bussed out. Could we have conversation around that? Could we have conversation about the cost that is associated with that? We can have a lot of conversation about that. And then it breaks away from our kids having the ability or opportunities for their family members to run up to the school when there's a problem real quick. Walk up there, if there's a problem. There's no bus line that even comes to my site. So if they don't have Uber money and don't have a car, you're not coming. They're not.
And that is a particular importance if the child especially is sick. Okay, one, if the child is sick, and also if the child, say some child got into some kind of altercation or something like that, and somebody got to come pick him up, that child gonna sit there all day. Nobody coming to pick you up and take you back home. I've had a parent tell us that you might as well keep him, because I can't keep him over here. I'm too far away from the school and from the job to say he's gonna stay at home. So he might as well stay, bring him right back to school. So just you have to look at all around. But have you taken a moment? And I'm just gonna pause right here. Have you taken a moment to drive through? Um, it's called Midtown, and also over by West Tampa. I mean, I've been here 20 something years. April is a native Tampanian, and I
Ugh,
drove through there, and I cannot
yeah.
believe in
You don't
my
even
mind
recognize it. You don't recognize it. Like, I
that
feel
that
like
was.
I'm in a different city. It feels like a
I
totally
thought
different city.
I didn't know that was the project. If you never knew That was where the fit. You go around down West Main Street where the fish market, where the fish guy used to sell them the best fish sandwiches. You ever had that hot fish? And then across the street was a little club right there. If you did not know that that was all projects, beautiful waterside. Because remember that's what they want is the water. What do you call it again? The view. They got the best view right there. Okay, but people. So where do those people go? Where do the children go? Where do the families go? That's
That
all
is a
we
great
put down there to
question.
ask
That is
you.
a great question. And like you said, the majority have been pushed out to Riverview. Even over there, a lot of the students, a lot of families moved into the HUD housing out there, Riverview, the apartment complexes, the HUD housing that's right there off of one, like those massive HUD housing apartments, similar to Brandywine and a few others. And the question becomes, well, they moved out, and it used to be years back, with the understanding that once we created the new housing, we were able to come back. Mm-mm. There's nowhere for you to come to. You couldn't afford it if you thought about it. And at this rate that we're with so many individuals coming out of these no housing developments that are no longer Robust Park is, I think, our last one. Our projects. We still have a lot of housing that's scheduled to be torn. Talking about, but I will say this: there's no way those families can afford rents at the rate that they would need in order to secure safe housing for their families when there's like 4 and 5 and 6 of them in the house. There's no way. There's no way. And then you ask, well, what should they do? Great question. Great question.
Yeah. Because they're building up some more stuff over there by Channel Side as well. But you're talking about that we have been effectively priced out. Those families especially have been priced out. You received say $800 for welfare or $900 something like that, and the SNAP benefits, the food stamp. But still, rent is now 22, 26, $2,800 a month. I mean, there's no way that it can be done with any equity, which leads then and now. Okay, I'm pushing these kids who are accustomed to living this particular way into a neighborhood now where a lot of people aren't accustomed to seeing them in that neighborhood. I've had some stories from kids who are telling me, well, the neighbor called the police on us. Well, why is that? Well, we live in a whole neighborhood. There's nobody around us that looks like us. So now that takes us to what's some of the consequences of this now having to move, consequences of now you're no longer in a neighborhood where you feel the support. What is going to happen to you in the future? How do you handle, and without the social emotional background, without any kind of resources to teach you how to deal with conflict, what is going to happen to the kids when they start going into these areas?
And even before leading to that, I'll give you an example. My pastor lives out in the Riverview back that way area, and there's a lot of construction still happening out there, and some streets are still not lit. So he got lost on one of the back roads, and an officer pulled him over. And the reasoning behind pulling him over was, you flashed me as you were traveling down this road. And my pastor began to try to explain to him, sir, I did not. It is a all feature that's all built into the car that it tries to adjust the lighting for you to make sure that you're safe. And the officer became so raged and angry, calling him basically a liar. You're not telling the truth. I know about this type of vehicle, just upset. And my pastor began to say that all he could do was pray, because he was saying, oh my God, this I'm getting ready to be murdered on the side of the road because of the simple fact that my car has an auto feature, and this man is just upset, and there's no one around. There's no house, there's no nothing. So the officer goes on and on and on, and eventually demands his license. And he told me, said it was very challenge for him to even want to reach for the license. Keep in mind, his phone had no service, none in that area. None. Could not call anybody, couldn't do anything. The officer goes back to the car, runs his light, whatever he did back there, and comes back and says, I'm going to give you a warning. I looked it up on YouTube, and evidently this particular car on this feature on this car does exist, like you're saying. Gave him a warning. Still upset about it. Still not happy about it. Never apologized. Sent him on his way. He said he was terrified to even drive off because he still was like that, had him so distorted, like functional at the moment because that happened. So his endorphins are so high. He was fearful if he pulled off, it was just going to lead to something else. So he did get to a place to where his phone, what do you call it? Not charging, the phone connection was there and reached out to
He was able
family.
to
And
get a signal.
yes,
Hmm.
so get service. And yeah, so imagine children in that situation. Imagine it, the 17-year-old, the 18-year-old. And we know how they are very combative with speaking back and talking back and refusing to identify when authority is being, in place. I just want us to imagine that for the moment. Imagine if it's more than just the one black boy, and there's several of the friends in there. They've been loud and obnoxious too. Imagine if you want to say one of them had on a jacket that smelled like we. All of those imagine, but what we do know that could have went so wrong, all because of everything we just talked about. Everything, it all goes together. It does not disconnect. Everything that we spoke about lines right back up with diversity, equity, and inclusion. We just giving you all different scenarios and how they connect. But I just wanted to say that really quick, Denise.
That's great because thank you for sharing that because uh, this is feels like it's walking back. You know, we feel that the 50 years that we've made a little bit of progress when it comes to the civil rights movement and all that stuff like that. Where are we at right now? Because now people are feeling emboldened and empowered to say, "Oh, I can talk to you and treat you anyhow I want to treat you," and that's a scary situation. And especially you take these things being walked back with this generation who don't know how not to talk back. And that's some stuff that's just like, you don't want to put all that together because I just don't know how our children can process handling what they talk back to us. They got, bro, yeah, bro, what you? I mean, I'm trying to work with them like, you can't speak to everyone like that. You got to understand everyone is not going to be receptive of that language. So now combined with, hey, let's walk back all this stuff here. We don't want to have any diversity. We want to. In fact, I heard in the news today, and I wish I actually got the guy's name, but in quote saying that no kind of leadership could work unless a white man is at the head of it. I'm like, what? You actually were bold enough to open your mouth and say that? And there's a clip by Crockett, Jasmine Crockett. She was responding to that. So if you find that, go ahead and look it up. She literally responds to that particular quote that he said. And so you're getting people in their mind where I feel as a Caucasian male that I'm always going to be right and I always should be the head of everything. You're trying to put that up against these children. So how is that going to impact their future success? How is that going to impact them in terms of their career? How is that going to impact them in terms of them getting even higher education? And then how does resistance look like for these kids?
And let's go, we can even go smaller, but very big, very, very, very massive in that. How is that impacting them psychologically right now? If we think these kids not paying attention, they may not be able to communicate as well. They may not be able to explain how they're feeling emotionally, but that definitely is wearing at their psyche right now. And my heart goes out to mothers of Hispanic children. My heart goes out to them. It like what happened to just being respectful and caring about the human race as a whole? What happened to that to us as a people? Yes, in every race, there's going to be individuals that break the law, do things that no family member or no mother would want to say as occur in their child's life. But that don't mean that we ostracize and penalize everybody because of that. And unfortunately, that's where we are. And I just could not imagine that. I could not imagine not knowing what my rights are, what they look like, what they sound like, when someone could basically say all of that is not true because I get to decide because you're Hispanic. I just don't understand that. And we know it's
Yeah.
not that cut and
Uh,
dry. Don't take it literally. I'm just making the point that, okay, because somebody take it out of
mhm.
context.
So exactly. We don't want you to take it out of context. But one thing we do want you to understand is that, listen, we all in this together. And if you didn't know before, I need you to understand that we all in this together. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you, and you need to pay attention to something. Because of slavery and because of so many things that happened during that time, we people of color come in all shades. All right. So we are not exempt because some of us might be a little lighter or a little brighter than others. When it comes down to this whole overarching thing that's called racism, all right, one set of people think we're going to lump all of us in there together. Okay, so I want you to understand that if we're stronger together. We're talking about Indians, Asians, Black people, Hispanic. We are actually stronger together because all together, if you did the math on it, our numbers are larger. If you just sit there and think about it, combine, imagine if we all combine. And then on top of that, to quote one of my friends, he said, if you throw a couple rednecks in there who act just like black folks, rednecks do, we might actually take over because we're real good at that. And we all know how to cook outside and kill some animals and stuff. But I'm just
Look,
to bring it back
we
on, bring
are
it back to
together.
seriously.
Look, because we share more
We are.
common. We have more commonalities than we really think. Because one thing, none of us are wealthy. The ones in that good melting pot
What?
there, the rednecks, we all we're one. Look, we share that commonality. We're not part of the wealth.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's what those people understand. If you sat down and had a dinner with somebody and realized we all fish in the same fishing hole, we all know how to cook the same collard green, we all know how to cook that good cornbread with some black eyed peas. Listen, we all together in this. It really is rich against poor. It ain't have nothing to do with race. It's rich against poor. Why are these people
Yes.
stealing from us? Just think like that. If you think like that, you realize, wow, the actual enemy is not the person that don't look like me, it's the person who's stealing all the money. Okay, so but that's where we at. We just wanted to open up your minds and enlighten you all with DEI this week. Go ahead, April.
I was going to say the money and the land, and the land. Look, the most valuable asset that one can have. Yes, you got your gold and your different gems and so on and so, but that good land. Yes, 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 yes. So again, our ultimate goal during this series is to basically take different topics around DEI and just have small talk conversation, from our perspectives and alignment with facts that go along with it. So yeah, we have our opinions about things because we're human. That's what we are. But we never want to put out the message as though we are um being a part of the division in the language of what's happening in our world. We're not a part of the divide. We don't want to see the division, but we do know that when it comes to race, let's say that we do know that there's a distinct division when it comes to these good old financial resources, the wealth and the poor. Right now, there's no in the middle anymore. There's not. You're either wealthy or you're poor. I'm closer to the poor than I am the wealth, unfortunately. And when you take away various opportunities based upon race due to programs that was put in place in order to level the playing field, like Denise, we are more closer to 50 years ago than we are than where we should be. And the question comes, what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do? What are you going to do about it as a human? What are you going to do about it as it relates to someone that don't look like you based on the color of your skin? What are you going to do about it?
So we want you to join our conversation. We're going to be back here next week, same time, same place. Our topic next week, to give you a moment to think about it, is changes in public education. So we want you to join us. I mean, and we're going to give you. We can send a link. You can DM us or get in touch with us on through our page, and we will gladly share the link with you so you can join us. in the conversation about public education. How are you feeling about it? Especially as schools start to look like they're more charter, they're private. I mean, what does your child do? Are you homeschooling? How do you feel about the micro schools and the mini schools? And that's something that I mean April might want to look into because these people going crazy around here. Okay, so so that's where we're going to be talking about next week, and we definitely want you to come and join us. And so, April, give us our website before we sign off. Well, how can you guys get in touch with us and find out more information about us?
So you go www.sunshineeducationcoalition.org. And there is also abbreviated one as well. I cannot remember that one off the top of my head, but you can find us at www.sunshineeducationcoalition.org. And you also can go back and see the previous years. Oh, there it is. www.sunshineec.org. There you go. So again, we continue to do this thing, and that means show up daily for children. We show up daily for children that most cannot show up because they lack the capability to do so. And it's not because they don't have the education to do so. They lack the cultural competency to do so. They lack the relatability to do so. They lack that the empathy to do so. It's just a bunch of lacking in areas that they could change quickly because they're educated to do so. So it is what it is. And on that note, are we wrapping up?
Yes, we'll say good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Have a good
Have a
night.
good night. Bye.